Okay whānau, data gathering. I'm figuring if you've just gone to the very first one on the menu to see, oh, okay, we'll check this out, I should tell you the most important thing first. Here it is in a nutshell. How brainy your baby is going to end up being has very little to do with their whakapapa, has very little to do with their genes. I know that might be surprising because we've lived in a generation where we've learnt that your eye colour and your hair colour and your height all come through your genes. But what we've learned is that intelligence, not so much so. There may be a small genetic component, but largely your intelligence, or your baby's intelligence, really everyone's intelligence, is defined by the data that they gather in the first 1,000 days of life. Which means that how brainy you are isn't about your genes, it means that how intelligent you are is about the data that you're gathering from the time you are conceived in the wharetakata, in the womb, until you are about 2.5 years old. For that 1,000 days, the human brain is designed to be moulded by the environment. That's the term the literature uses over and over again, to be moulded by the environment. It means you're not as set by your genes as you thought. It's really the early years that define how intelligent you're going to be. This is largely why the matamua, the eldest child in the family, statistically is going to grow out to be the highest qualified and earn the most money. Now I know that's not going to be all of the time. There's going to be individual whānau where that's not true. Whenever you're disseminating research, you're talking about what's happening most of the time to most of the people. And it is true that the eldest child most of the time is going to be the highest income earner and the highest qualified in the family. We can't measure as easily whether he's going to be the happiest or whether he's going to be the coolest because they're sort of abstract things that are hard to measure. What we can measure is how qualified they'll be at 32 and how much money they'll be earning. And it is statistically true that it's the eldest child that's likely to be doing the best there. So if intelligence was genetic, that would basically mean that you've made the first child with your best genes. You've given them the best egg and the best sperm, and of course that's obviously not the case. It's pretty random, the genetic information you give to your children. The eldest child isn't the most intelligent because he was made with the best genes. The eldest child is the most intelligent because the data that you're gathering in the first 1,000 days is primarily about how often is my parent's face in front of my face interacting with me. The more your parent's face is in front of your face in that first 1,000 days, pretty much the brainier you're going to be. And basically, you spent more time with your eldest child, you had your face in front of their face for more hours per day than you did most of the other kids. If you don't believe me, look at the family photo album. You'll find photographic evidence that you spent more time with the first one. I mean, that may not be the case for you. It could be that with the first one there was postnatal depression and you're isolated and no family members around. And for the second one, life was all good and everything was going wonderful. And in that family, we would expect the second child to grow up and be the highest qualified and earn the most money. But that would be the exception to the rule. Most of the time, you spend more time with the first child than you do with any of the other kids, as the family photo album attests to. So that's sort of showing us that it's the data that you gather in the early years that really defines how intelligent you are. So that's kind of good news if the gene pool you dipped into wasn't of the highest quality, because it doesn't mean you're predetermined to have a stupid child. What it means is that children aren't blank slates. There's certainly genes going on there, but they're nowhere near as set as we think. And most of that template that they gather is actually about the first 1,000 days of life, from conception until 2.5 years old. You can create an amazing human being. Kia ora whānau.